Alright guys, what's going on? Welcome back today. Hope you guys are all doing well, whoever's watching this. Hopefully you've managed to see a couple of my videos already. If not, welcome to the channel. If you haven't watched my video from the previous day regarding academies, you might want to go back and watch that, just because I am going to refer back to that video quite a bit today. So for those of you who have watched that, I've been thinking about it a little bit the last day or two, however long it has been since I spoke about it, and I don't think I gave that video enough justice in terms of the time it probably took, the time it probably needed. I think I recorded it after one of my Champions League predictions, so I don't think I gave it enough time. So I wanted to revisit it today, go into a few more clubs. I know I've already given my opinion of City being the best or producing the highest level of quality, and I think that's a key point there. I've defined them as being the best quality because they've produced the highest level of players. So they might not have produced as many as, say, Liverpool or I'm trying to think off the top of my head, or like Man United or someone like of that ilk. But I think they've produced a higher standard of play. You know, Cole Palmer, Phil Foden, Rico Lewis. You know, I've put Rico Lewis in that bracket. You know, Liam Delap. They've produced very technical players to a higher level. That's why I think I've put them top. So, but yeah, I wanted to revisit it because after I finished it, I've been sitting on it for a couple of days, and I'm like, I've missed a lot of players and a lot of teams out. You know. So I just wanted to go back, and I know for a fact someone has been watching that video and gone, where's Liverpool? Where's Liverpool? Where's Liverpool? Like, excuse me, what? So yeah, we'll get into it. So yeah, go for Liverpool then, why not? So I think the way you have to look at it with academies, which I didn't do at the time, is it's very cyclical. You know, it comes in decades really, where City have obviously produced Foden and Palmer and Sancho and all these players around the same time in the 20s, you have to say, in the 20s, yeah? The late 10s, early 20s really, they've come through now, yeah? So, if we go back though, 20 years, a bit more, you've got Liverpool. You know, they pulled through Michael Owen, Steven Gerrard, Jamie Carragher. So they had a really top level academy. Even later on after that, you still had Sterling coming through, and currently obviously you've still got Trent who's come through in the last 10 years, Curtis Jones and Conor Bradley. So their academy is still pumping out quality players, although potentially you could argue that this current crop, like in the 20s, hasn't quite hit the standards. You know, I think that's fair to say, you know. I think Steven Gerrard and Michael Owen were generational talents, really, at least English generational talents. You know, one won the Ballon d'Or. Trent, you could argue generational talent in terms of his actual ability. Whether Curtis Jones and Conor Bradley can reach those levels remains to be seen. From what I've seen so far, I don't know if Curtis Jones can, but I definitely think Conor Bradley could be one of the best right backs in the world in the future. That might be a very outlandish statement to make, but I think from what I've seen, he's been exceptional when I've seen him play, you know. So yeah, I wanted to give flowers to Liverpool because I know there's going to be some fans that are like, oh, well, you missed them out, blah blah blah. And it's a fair point, you know. They had a very good academy, and they still do have a very good academy, and they obviously still do trust kids, you know. Obviously Klopp played, we had a bench of kids for the Carabao Cup final last season. Slot had to bring them along to Plymouth, I think. So obviously they still got a very, very good academy. I think at the end of this I might try and do like maybe a top 5. We'll try to rank them, you know. So obviously I put City at first, but we'll come back to it. I think we'll do a top 5 at the end. Next we'll go on to, I'll touch on United quickly because I don't think, again, I gave them a little bit of a shout out in the last episode. I said they couldn't have like Garnacho, for example, because obviously they bought him, or Cheetah, or Heaven. But obviously when you go back to the 90s, everyone knows the class 92. I don't even have to go into it. Everyone knows about the class 92. They were the best academy then by a long way, you know. Even in the noughties, you could say they were still pulling through talent, you know. But it has dried up in recent years. Since Marcus Rashford and Mason Greenwood, you only really had Kobbie Mainoo. I like Collier. But I haven't seen enough of him to justify his name in this conversation yet, I don't think. So yeah, I think the United Academy, it needs some investment in for sure. I think it has tailed off in the past 10 years, really. Because if you're being critical of them, their best player they've produced is Marcus Rashford, and he doesn't play for this club. So, you know, I think Mainoo will be better than Rashford, don't get me wrong, but he's not better than him right now if you're going off of what they've done in their career, you know. That's my opinion. If someone wants to say Mainoo's better than Rashford, then by all means, you know, I think he will be. But in terms of what he's achieved so far in his career, he's not there yet. You know, he's still only, what, 18, 19? He will get there, don't worry. I'm convinced, you know. But I'm a bit worried with Mainoo this season from what, I don't know. There's a lot of hype around him, and deservedly so, you know. I think in the Euros, he was a huge player for England. He was massive for United last season. But he's just... When Amorim came in, I thought, oh, Mainoo's going to do really well in the system. I thought he's going to be like one of the central players in that central 10th part of Ugarte. I thought he'd be perfect for him, this system. And it hasn't clicked for him yet. Whether Amorim's going to trust him, because it's obviously only two in the middle of the pitch, he has to have a good understanding of that position. Whether Amorim's going to trust him in the near future remains to be seen. But I hope for his sake he does get that shot. And then in the middle of the park, because him playing false 9 just does not work. Him playing the false 9 was ridiculous, I'm not going to lie. Him playing in one of the 10s, I get it, but I think it'd be better for him and better for the team if he's in an 8 role. I think it will just be better. He can do the 10. I think it's like similar to Bellingham's predicament in a way, where he can do the 10, he can do the 8. I think Mainoo is better as 8 though. Or actually, Bellingham may be a better example. Maybe Rice is a better example. You know, Rice can do the 8 and do the 6, but I think Rice is a better 6 than an 8. Or he's a better rotating 6, a double pivot. You know. Yeah, that's. Hopefully he picks up his form. But if they have to sell him, I'd take him at Arsenal in an absolute heartbeat. I think he'd be great in our left-hand side 8 position. He could be fantastic there. I don't see them selling him. I think that was just a media ploy by United to so the fans didn't complain about when signings didn't come in, because then they would say, oh, if you wanted signings, we have to sell Garnacho or Mainoo. Like, we need profit. So I think that was just put out there from United to make sure that people weren't disgruntled when no signings came in. Anyway. We'll move on. Next team, West Ham. Now, I can't believe I missed West Ham in my original video. I think it's probably because in recent years, obviously, they haven't produced as much talent. But even in the last 10 years, you look at it and they have pumped out Declan Rice, you know, as like their big, one of their own player. I try to think of other players that they've produced in the last 10 years, and I do struggle. I can't think of that many off the top of my head with West Ham right now. But again, if you go back 20 or so years, you had John Terry was there till he was 14. Frank Lampard obviously came through there. Joe Cole, Rio Ferdinand, Glenn Johnson. Like, they had some serious ballers that came through West Ham, and it does make you think. Imagine if they just kept hold of them. What could they have actually done if they managed to keep hold of those players? Obviously, we'll never know the answer to that question, but you had arguably England's best midfielder, arguably, definitely top 3. you had England's best 10 we've produced outside of Gascoigne. Technically, maybe you say Bellingham's in there now, or Palmer or Foden, fine. But until 2020, we'll say it was their best one outside of Gascoigne, basically, Joe Cole. And if anything, Joe Cole was he was too early for his time, you know. If Joe Cole had come through 5-10 years later, he would have been playing in that 10 role in the 4-2-3-1, and he would have thrived, you know. He had kind of a similar issue to Jack Grealish had with Guardiola, in terms of when he went to Chelsea, Mourinho drilled it into him. He's not losing the ball and he has to work hard, which is fair enough, working hard, but he did lose a little bit of magic, you know. Early Joe Cole was he's just a street baller. That's what he was, a street baller. It was like he's going power league or the cage, like, that's all it was. But yeah, West Ham, like, Rio Ferdinand, England's best centre-half, apart from John Terry, in my opinion. I put Lampard above Gerrard and Scholes personally, but even if that's up for debate, it's still impressive that they produced that. Glenn Johnson was a very solid right back. He could be a bit, I don't know what the word is for him. Inconsistent's kind of a nice way of putting it, you know. You kind of didn't know what you were going to get from him. Sometimes he would be amazing going forward, but he was very much prone to a mistake, you know. Yeah, so West Ham definitely deserve the shout. I can't talk about West Ham without talking about Mark Noble as well. I know if there are any West Ham fans that watch this and they go, how have you mentioned all these players and not mentioned Mark Noble? So I think everyone says him or Steve Bruce is like the best English players to never get an England cap, and I can definitely see it. He just came through at the wrong time for an England cap, really, you know. They were blessed with central midfielders. We had two central midfielders where we shouldn't have even played the 4-4-2. And you know, if we hadn't played a 4-4-2, maybe he would have got a cap. If we'd played a 4-3-3, he might have actually got into a squad, because you would need more central midfielders. So maybe he just got unlucky with the managers more so than the players, you know. But yeah, he was a quality player for West Ham. He was Mr. West Ham when you think about it. Like, when I think about like collecting my old match tags or something back in the day, and seeing Mark Noble, and I was like, yeah, you just know he's there. Yeah, West Ham done. Then we have Southampton. Now, I kind of forgot about Southampton just because of where they are in the league. I kind of forgot they were in the Premier League for a sec. I'm not gonna lie, because in my head I've checked out that they're going down. Like, there's no hope for Southampton. In recent years, who have they produced? That's also where I struggle. Obviously, you've got Tyler Dibling coming through now, who looks outrageous, and he will definitely be getting a move in the summer, I think. If he doesn't, his agent's done something very wrong. Where he goes, I hope it's not Chelsea, because he needs minutes. I hope it's not City, because he'd be very good for City, but he also needs minutes. I'd like to see him go, I don't know, Villa already have a Rodgers similar ilk. It's tricky. Maybe you could say a Brighton might not be bad for him. Liverpool could be decent. Arsenal could be decent, but I think he needs to pick his next move very carefully, because it'd be very easy for him to go to a Chelsea who will show interest in him, or a City, and just end up being on the bench player, you know. So I really hope he goes to a team where he's going to get minutes and he's going to play football, because he looks like a special player as well. And England have got a lot coming through at the moment when you think about Ranieri, Mikey Moore, Lewis Skelly and Tyler Dibling, all emerging a bit this season. But yeah, if we go backwards of Southampton, all you have to do is look at the teams when they were pumping through talent. And I think at one point they must have had about a whole team of just academy graduates. Obviously you've got Luke Shaw at United now, who on his day, or for a good while I think, was the best left back in the world when fit. Key words being when fit. The left back position has kind of dried up in recent years in terms of quality, and I think after Marcelo left Madrid and Jordi Alba left Barcelona, after that you're looking at Teo Hernandez at AC Milan. Well, that's only been the last couple of years. Between 2019 and 2022, 23 maybe you could say, he was probably the best left back in the world when he was fit. I think that's a fair enough point. I think that's what I rated him as well. And that's why United did keep him all those years, because when he was fit, he was very good. It's just getting him fit and keeping him fit is the issue. And it's still going to plague him. I think United do need to cut their losses with him now. But he was still a very good academy graduate coming out of Southampton. Other ones, obviously, you got Adam Lallana, very technically good player. Probably he was okay for Liverpool. He's probably not quite of that level where he's top tier. I know he played for England, he got England Player of the Year, but he didn't have maybe the physicality. I don't know what he was missing. Just a little bit of maybe that burst of pace. You know, he wasn't the quickest, and I feel like in that he played 10. He played on the wing a little bit. He had his injury issues as well, though. To be fair to him. But yeah, he was a very quality. He was a quality player with a lot of technical ability. And then if we look even further back, if you go back to the 90s, then you're looking at Matt Le Tissier and Alan Shearer. I don't even need to go into detail with these two. Two quite different players, but two Premier League greats. Obviously Le Tissier was a bit before that. He still played in the Prem, don't get me wrong, but he was just a silky player. I didn't see him myself, but from what I've seen and what I've been told as well, even just from my dad, is just how silky he was and how he could have been playing levels above Southampton, but he's stuck there, you know. It's his club, and you have to respect that. And obviously Alan Shearer, the name speaks volumes, you know. As an academy graduate, that's one of the best ones you can have in the Premier League. To have the top goal scorer in Premier League history as your academy graduate is a big statement. I'm trying to think of any other ones from that time period where they're coming through. They had a very young team, not necessarily all academy graduates. Obviously, you're thinking of like Van Dijk when he was younger, Sadio Mane. They weren't academy graduates, but they picked them up when they were young, kind of like how Brighton do now. You know, picking up young graduates, young players from Europe, and then just making them monsters, basically. Where else are we looking? I was thinking about Newcastle and who they've actually produced, because I can't remember that many in the past. Maybe that's me being a bit thick, but I don't remember that many. Obviously, the ones that I remember are like Niall Ranger when he was a youngster, but maybe they should, because they didn't have the money back then, they couldn't actually get those talents through, you know. If you look at recent years, it has improved a lot. Obviously, you got nearly made a mistake there. Nearly said Livermento. He's not Newcastle. But you got Elliot Anderson and Yankuba Minter, both of which they've obviously sold, which was not really in their hands, and when they should have. I said to my mate who's a Newcastle fan, you had to keep Minter, like one way or the other. You just had to keep Minter, because he was perfect for them. Because now they're going to have to go out and get a right winger this season. They've been needing the right winger for years, really. Almo's never. He had his purple patch when Jack Grealish basically called him dead, but apart from that, he's never really been cut out for the Prem. And Minter would have been perfect. You know, if you had Gordon, Minter, and Isak as a front three, oh, the pace in that attacking alone is scary enough. But it is what it is, you know. if he'd have come through 3 or 4 years later, maybe with PSR getting changed around, he might have been fine. Yeah, I rate Yankuba Minter very highly, and I think he's got a big future ahead of him. Elliot Anderson as well, very similar story. Didn't really get much of a look in because of injuries with Newcastle. I think he was going to play a bigger role last season, but he got a bad injury. And to be fair, they got 35 mil for both of them basically, so they did do well out of the deals. But it's just sad that they couldn't actually bring them through. The other one of their academy graduates in recent times is obviously Lewis Miley, who I missed out from the England ones I just meant a little second ago because there are so many of them now. But he looks like a very good talent as well, and at least they've managed to keep one of their academy graduates who actually could play first team football. Fucking hell. Sorry about that. The car is don't know what happened there. He decided to drive in between 2 lanes and has sped past about 20 cars in the process. There's definitely going to be a crash here. I might end up getting this on film. He might have crashed, I'm not going to lie. Okay, no, I don't see anything's happened there. Okay, back to what I was saying. Newcastle, yeah, it's been, they've done well to get these 3. They could be top talents through, but only to keep one is a bit. I'm trying to imagine Arsenal if we had like Lewis Skelly, let's say Lewis Skelly, Nwaneri, and let's say Saka came through at the same time. If we only managed to keep Saka out of those 3, you'd be kicking yourself in a few years' time. I think you would be. I think they will be in a few years' time. But again, do you take the points hit? Maybe. I've heard this debate before of like, if you know how many points are coming your way, you could just plan for it. Like I've heard this debate before, where let's say a player you sign, that player is going to be worth what 5-6 points in the season. If you know you're going to get slapped with a 3 or 4 points deduction, do you just take the hit there and just hope this player comes good basically? Maybe you think, oh, Minter and Anderson are going to give us 30 points in the next 5 years. Maybe it's just worth taking the points hit for now, you know? Maybe that's something that's worth considering, I think, with Newcastle, because I think it's so important to keep those young players in your academy and in your team if you can. That's why I think that's why we love Saka so much at Arsenal, and we want these players to be playing first team football for us. Now, Nwaneri, Lewis Skelly, you want to be bringing them through because it just breathes into the culture of the whole club. But yeah, anyway, we got, I think, one more to go through. When I was thinking about Newcastle, I was like, I know Anthony Gordon wasn't from them, so Everton. And the names that stick out for me are obviously Anthony Gordon in recent times. You've got Calvert-Lewin, Jared Branthwaite, who is a top talent, I think. And if we're looking to the past, you're looking at Wayne Rooney. I think probably the most prestigious talent the Premier League's produced. I don't think that's an outrageous statement. I think he's the second best player to play in the Premier League for an extended period of time after Thierry Henry. England's best player of all time, so that's my opinion. Obviously people might say Gascoigne, I didn't see enough of him to give an opinion on that. Yeah, Everton definitely have a shout in there. Yeah, so we'll rank them, I guess. So obviously I've put Man City first. That is based off of recency bias, we'll call it. Yeah, like currently the best academy. I think second, it depends how you define it, you know, because you would probably assume I'm going to say Chelsea because of how many players they've got playing in top leagues in Europe and stuff. Like, you've obviously got Tammy Abraham out in Italy, Ruben Loftus-Cheek. You've got several players playing in the Premier League, Mark Gahey, like. But I'm actually going to go with Arsenal, probably because I'm being biased, but also because I think we've produced the best talent out of the two clubs in Bukayo Saka. And I think Smith Rowe competes with Reece James' level of player in terms of the actual level that we've produced, you know. I don't think they've produced a Bukayo Saka level player. You could argue Reece James, and he's probably quite unlucky with his injuries that I am taking that into account, because at the end of the day it's the player that you're producing, you know. I could say Smith Rowe was going to be a top 10, like a top number 10 in the Premier League. Probably won't be now because of his injuries, and that's coming into account. But I think the other thing with it is, are these players playing first team football for a top club? Mason Mount wasn't starting for United. Abraham's not really starting over in Italy now. He's had to go out on loan. Loftus-Cheek does start, to be fair to him, he gets minutes. Mark Gahey starting, not for a top club though. And Arsenal, you've got 3 players who have been starting for us. You could argue Nwaneri's only been starting because of injuries. Fair enough. Does he start when Saka comes back? Maybe. Maybe he gets a minute somewhere else. But then I also look at Arsenal and I go, even taking it to past ones, I know you can put John Terry in that bracket, but if you go John Terry, I go Tony Adams. Like, if you want to play the long game like that, it's a bit stupid. But then I throw in like Jack Wilshere, and people probably won't understand. Young people won't understand how good this guy was when he first came through. I think he's a similar age. I think he's a bit older than me. He's like maybe 7, 8 years older than me. So obviously when he was coming through, I would have been 8 or 9, 10. And I remember watching him playing against Barcelona. And no Arsenal fans probably bang on about this game that Wilshere had against Barcelona, but it's easily the best game I've seen a young player have. Pretty much full stop. Like, you're playing against the best midfield trio in history. You've been man of the match and you've ran the game. It doesn't get much bigger than that, you know. So yeah, I'm going to go Arsenal second. I'm going to go Chelsea third. I'm going to go who's going to be fourth? I think going off, it's okay. It's a toss-up between. It's a real toss-up. It's how much I'm putting down to history. So if I'm going history, I'm putting in United, and I'm going, yeah, like, you have to have them in the top 5. But if you're going off recent times of United, Mainu, Rashford, Greenwood isn't. It's not exciting me, you know. If I'm going off Liverpool, I'm going Trent. They produced Gerrard more recently than they produced those players. It's close. If you look at Everton as well, Everton have got a very good academy now. Obviously, you put Jared Van. You know what? Oh, controversial. I think I'm going to put. Oh, it's so controversial to do that though. I don't know, we're going to go Liverpool 4th, Everton 5th. That's Liverpool 4th, Everton 5th. That's my top 5. So Man City, Arsenal, Chelsea, Liverpool, Everton. I almost put Everton in 4th because of Wayne Rooney. But Liverpool do have, you know, Carragher, and they had Gerrard and Michael Owen. Michael Owen's one tipped over the edge for me, I think. But and also Liverpool's recent players are still doing well. You know, Everton almost pushed me over, but I've put Everton 5th because of where I think their players will get to as well. Like I think Jared Branthwaite is going to be a top centre half of it, like one day somewhere. Anthony Gordon I already rate highly. He's only 23, and then obviously pull in like Wayne Rooney into that. And for United to not be in the top 5 is crazy, but I just think their academy's tailed off a bit. I think they need some serious reinvestment in that academy, because if they're having to poach players from Arsenal's academy, something's gone very wrong, you know. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed my little discussion and thought process. If you don't agree with me, let me know in the comments. I'm very much open to hearing suggestions on better academies. I'm quite interested in learning more about it, to be honest. So I might revisit this at some point. But yeah, I just wanted to give it the time of day this time around, because a 15-minute video wasn't really enough. You know, I feel like I've discussed it a bit better now. And yeah, I think I've still settled on Man City being the best because of the players they produce. But hey, I'd love to be proved wrong. If Arsenal want to go and produce a couple more, you know, if Max Dalman turns out to be better than Phil Foden or Cole Palmer, then we will definitely come back to this list. But yeah, if you guys don't agree, let me know down below. Thank you for watching today, and hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you. Bye.